Salut class, this video is going to discuss the difference between the relative pronouns qui and que. So make sure to pause the video so you can try out the practice and rewind as you need to, and feel free to ask me any questions to better understand. So to start, relative pronouns are words that are used to connect or relate sentences to one another. Okay, so we're going to start with qui. Qui is a relative pronoun that can mean who, that, or which. Now this is kind of different because since you've learned qui, we've said that qui means who. But when it comes to qui functioning as a relative pronoun, it may refer to people or to things, which is why it can mean that or which or who, depending on what it's referring to. The other thing that you should know before we get into the examples is that qui is the subject of the verb that comes after it. Okay, so we're going to look at some examples. So if you look at these two sentences, this first example, we have J'ai des copines, elles habitent à Paris. So the purpose of this is to combine these two sentences with the relative pronoun qui. So if you notice here, you have a subject and you have a verb. And here you have a subject and you have a verb. To combine these two sentences with qui, what we do is we get rid of elle and we replace it with qui. So our sentence, and we erase that period, now becomes J'ai des copines qui habitent à Paris. So qui is the subject of the verb that comes after it. And I'm sorry, this should say, obviously, verb. Okay, I apologize for that. J'ai des copines qui habitent à Paris. Now let's take this example. J'habite dans un immeuble qui a 20 étages. So notice that I replaced what was originally here was il a. So it was very simple. Here you have a subject and a verb. Here you have a subject and a verb. This subject is un immeuble. So all we have to do is take out the il and replace it with qui. So qui is now your subject of your verb avoir. J'habite dans un immeuble qui a 20 étages. So hopefully you've noticed that after qui, there's always a verb. In this case, though, notice un immeuble, an apartment complex, is a thing. So qui in this sense doesn't mean who. It means that or which. So it's an unfamiliar way that you're used to seeing qui, but it's exactly grammatically correct. I'd like you to try the next one on your own. So pause the video and wait for the answer. So if we have these two sentences, je parle à une dame, elle attend le bus, subject, verb, subject, verb. So your subject of this verb, attend, is now going to become exactly what you think, which is qui. So we have je parle à une dame qui attend le bus. I am speaking to a woman who is waiting for the bus. Okay, I'd like you now to do numbers 1 through 7. Pause the video, and when you unpause, the answers are going to come up for numbers 1 through 7. So do them carefully and then check your work carefully, please. Okay, here is number 1. Je regarde des maisons qui ont une architecture intéressante. So while we're at it, just a quick reminder, une feminine, architecture féminine, so then we make that agree with intéressante. Just a side note, so we're always remembering, but qui is what we're focusing on. Qui is now your subject, on is your verb that comes after it. After qui, which can mean who, that, or which, we always have a verb. Number 2, je rends visite à une copine qui habite dans la banlieue. Qui habite is the key to this. Number 3, je vais dans un café qui sert d'excellents sandwichs. Here is number 4. Here is number 5. Number 6. And finally, the last one, number 7. So remember, qui, subject, va, verb. All right. Now we are going to take some time to discuss the relative pronoun que. And as this is a relative pronoun, just like qui, remember relative pronouns connect or relate sentences to one another. Now, que can mean something very similar to qui, but que actually means whom, that, or which. So it's this whom that's the big difference. But just like qui, que can refer to people or things. Okay? So people, whom, things, that, which. Now, on the other hand though, que, while qui is the subject of the verb that follows it, que is the direct object of the verb that comes after it. Now, in English, we do not always use the relative pronoun que, meaning that. But in French, we must use it. So if you take this example, voici l'affiche que je viens d'acheter. So if you take this example, we've got here is the poster that I just bought. Okay? In English, however, we can translate it, here is the poster I just bought. We don't have to say that in English. In French, we must use que. It's not an option. And then just a quick reminder that just like we've studied before, que, if it comes before a vowel, we take off that E and make an apostrophe. So it becomes like this, for example, quel. So an example in a sentence. Alice regarde le magazine qu'elle a acheté. Okay, so that que becomes QU apostrophe because of the vowel. All right, I would like you to try the two sentences that are the examples. and we will talk about them separately. So here is the answer for the first one. In the example, it says, j'ai des voisins, je les invite souvent. So you see that les, which is for des voisins, is the direct object of invite. So in our rewritten sentence, j'ai des voisins que j'invite souvent. So here you have a subject and a verb, and after the que, you have another subject and verb. So that's one way that I remember it, is that after the que, you need a subject, whereas the qui acts as the subject, and after qui, there's a verb. Okay, let's look at the second example. So here's the second example. Nous allons dans un café que je ne connais pas. So you've got your subject and your verb up here, and then you've got que, and the que is replacing the direct object of je, of connais. So after the que, you have a subject and a verb. Okay. So what I'd like you to do is pause the video and try numbers 1 through 7. This is where you're deciding which one it is, que or qui. Now again, remember, after que, you have a subject because que is the direct is replacing the direct object. After qui, you have a verb because qui is functioning as the subject of the sentence. And this is the difference between who and whom in English. After who, we have a verb. Qui, we have a verb. After whom, we have a subject and a complete sentence, just like after que, we have a subject and a complete sentence. Sometimes the qui versus que helps people understand the difference between who and whom in English. So again, pause the video, try numbers 1 through 7. When you unpause the video, the answers will show up. So here are the answers for number 1 through 7. I hope I didn't trick you with number 7. Remember, que changes to QU apostrophe before a vowel. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me, but please make sure to do some of these practice activities so you can get good practice with this.